So hi guys, today we are going to solve this question, which is the problem of the day of Leetcode, and the question is count servers that communicate. Okay, so in that question we have given a matrix of m into n, which is where one means that on that cell there is a server, and zero means that it is having no server. So two servers are set to communicate if they are on the same row or in the same column. So basically, we have given a matrix of 0 and 1, where 1 means that there is a server and 0 means there is no server. And if any server, if that one server is sharing the common row and common column with another server, then we can say that it is communicating with another server. So we can count that, and like that we need to find how many servers are there which can communicate with another server, right? So we need to return that answer. As let's dive into an example. So here we can see there is this one server which can communicate with the second server because it is sharing the same row, right? So that they can, so this one is can communicate with another one, and same for the second one. This one can communicate with the first one, so we can count them, right? Count them and store the number into the resultant variable, right? This server is sharing the common column with this server, right? So we can count that also, and the same for this one. Right now in the this last server, we can see that this server is not sharing the row and column with any other server, so we will not gonna count it. So in the end, we will return the result as 4. Now, one thing which we can notice here, we need to travel to the whole matrix, right? Because we need to count for each and every server which we are having in the matrix. So we need to consider all the one position matrix, and for that we need to traverse the whole matrix, which is going to be n into m time complexity, that's for sure. But and if we are solving it using a brute force method, right? So what we can do here is, what we can do here is, we can traverse, and when we can traverse the matrix, and then when we encounter a value 1, right? When we encounter a value 1, then we can check in that particular row and in that particular column that if there is any server or not. Okay, right? For instance, we arrived here, that is position 1 comma 3, let's say, and then we need to again traverse from for third column and one row. Okay, so what time complexity it would be? It would be n into m into n plus m, right? Because that column we need to then traverse, and then that row we need to traverse. So that n plus m it will make, and then the final time complexity will be n into m into n plus m. That is, I think we can solve it using brute force also. But for the efficient side, like how can we make it more efficient? This is the real question, right? How can we make it more efficient? I think so. What we can do, what we can do, for instance, what we can do, let's assume that we have the row count. Yeah, so let's assume we know how many servers are there in that particular row and how many servers are there in that particular column at this position. What if we know that? For instance, we have already calculated the number of server in each row and number of server in each column. If we know that, then we know when we arrive in this position that we have two server in this column, isn't it? Isn't it? We have two columns, and when we arrive in this server, then we know that we have only we have only one server in this column, and we have only one server in this row, right? Same for this one. We know that there are more than one column, there are more than one server in this particular row, and only one server in this particular column, isn't it? So if there is in row or in column for each row and for each column there are server greater than one, then we know there is another server exists in that particular row or column, isn't it? Right. So we can then eliminate that part where we are traversing each row and each column when we are when we are encountering one, isn't it? Yeah. So, so then our time complexity will be n into m only, because we have already calculated the number of server for each row and column, and then we just need to check that array row count and column count array, and then we can check if that server if in that row there are more than one server or not. If there are more than one server, then we can just count that server, and then in the resultant answer we can return that resultant answer, right? Yeah. So let's try to code that solution. So yeah, let's dive into understanding the code. So whatever I have discussed with you guys earlier, I have coded here only. So here I am taking two array, which is counting the number of server in each particular row, and here I am counting the number of server in each particular column. So right, you can see that I'm using a to loop, and whenever I'm getting the server, I'm counting it in row and column both, right? So that we will get the number of server in each row and number of servers in each column arrays, right? Yeah. Now that this is the resultant variable, and now for each row and column I'm traversing, and whenever I'm getting the server, I'm checking its row if it if it contains more than one server or not, and also checking the column if it is uh, if it is having more than one server or not, and if any of them having more than one server, then we are counting that server, right? Because it can communicate with that other server, right? So that's why I'm counting, and then in the end I'm just returning this result. And now let's try to run this. Yeah, it's working fine. Let's submit it. Okay, cool. It's passed. Right. So yeah, that's it for today. Thanks for watching, guys.